So we've looked at if we are told that we have a number that represents a proportion of an original number or a total number, we can calculate what percentage it represents. We did 25 was the proportion of 50, was a part of 50, and we worked out that that was 50%. We've also looked at if we have got two numbers, then we can work out if we've got the total number and we need to work out a certain percentage of it, we can work that out. So for instance, if I have 80 pupils and I know 25% of them passed, I can work out that 20 of them passed. The last thing then is if we're given a percentage and we're told that it represents a proportion of the original, and I know what that proportion is, then I can work out the original number. I can work out what it represents. So for instance, if this would, something we can't do with fractions as much, or at least it's more difficult, if I know that a piece of cake represented was 100 grams and it was an eighth, I'd multiply it by 8 to work out what the original cake was in weight. So it's a similar sort of thing, but with percentages. And we can't do it like we did just then with the fractions. Can't simply multiply it. The first thing I need to do is find out what 1% of the cake is. I've been given 10% of the cake, 10 hundredths, and I need to know what 1/100th, 1% of the cake is. So the easiest way to do that is to divide the 10 by 10. So if I divide the 10 by itself, then I'm going to get 1. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So I do that, but not only have I got to divide the 10 by itself, if I divide the 10 by 10, I've also got to divide the number by 10. So I divide the 46 by 10, giving me 4.6. And I now know that 4.6 represents 1%. So 46 represented 10%, 4.6 represented 1%. Well, the original, the total, was 100%. Going back to the cake analogy, when we were trying to work out the weight of the original cake, the whole cake was 100% of its weight. So we need to find out what 100% is. So to do that, we multiply the 1% by 100. 1 times 100 is 100. So I multiply my 4.6 by 100, and it'll give me 460. So what I did was I divided the 46 by 10, because the 46 represented 10%. And if I divided it by itself, if I divide it by that 10, it gives me 1% of it. And then I multiplied it by 100 to give me 100%, whatever the original was, which is 460. If that had been represented 8%, then I would have done 46 divided by 8 times 100. If it had been 27%, I'd do 46 divided by 7 times 100, and so on.